Hi, my name is Ty Whitman. Welcome to the Breaking the Chains channel. In its simplest form, what we do here is focus on making our lives and the world we live in a better place. Now, for some people, making their lives or the world they live in a better place involves needing to set up a website. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about website hosting and website building platforms. But in order to do that, let's first start by explaining the difference. Hosting. Website hosting, to give you an example of it that would pertain to the real world, think of it as renting space that you're going to build a business upon. So website hosting, what you're doing is you are renting space on the internet, which then you will use that space to build a website upon. Again, getting back to a tangible real world example. Let's say I'm going to rent some land by the beach, and on that land I want to build a surf shop. Yeah, long hair, I got to build a surf shop. I don't even surf, but let's go with that example anyway, okay? So I need to rent land. And then upon that land, I need to build a building, which I'm going to then fill with supplies and sell those things, okay? So the land that I'm renting, think of that as that's what web hosting is. By the way, a domain name is not web hosting. A domain name, to pertain that to our real world example, that would be the actual name of the shop and the physical address where people can find that shop. For example, my business is called Ty's Surf World, and it's at 1221 Kalakua Avenue. That would be the domain name. The space that shop is on would be the hosting. Now, what is a website building platform? So using that analogy that we were using earlier, back in the day, in order to build that surf shop on that land, it was a real project. You basically needed to be the general contractor, or you needed to hire one. And building that shop involved a lot. It involved pouring concrete, hammering, sawing, framing walls, drilling holes, running plumbing, running electrical, roofing, dealing with planning, dealing with building codes, zoning requirements, all that stuff. But now, taking the concept of the website building platform and applying it to that analogy, think of it in its simplest function like just choosing a building from a list of plans, pushing a button, and then having the bare bones of that building just appear on the land. And then you just have to customize it and make it yours. You add decorations, you do a little painting, you hang a couple of pictures, and then you put your product in the shop, and you are open for business. Website building platforms really do make it super easy to get started. When I first built my first website, I did it entirely myself. And I know nothing like Jon Snow. You know nothing, Jon Snow. That was a terrible egret impression. You know nothing, Jon Snow. Anyway, like Jon Snow, I knew absolutely nothing. Just a few months prior, I literally needed to have a friend teach me how to send an attachment in an email. That's no joke. And even afterwards, after I had my first website, after I had my podcast, they'd both been up and running for a little while, I gave a speech on the basics of podcasting at this event aimed at using technology to teach. That's actually what it was called. I was working in the water industry at the time, and it was a pretty big event for all the management of the water companies in California and Arizona. Anyway, the point is, I had to have my 14-year-old daughter put together my PowerPoint presentation for that speech because I didn't even know how to use PowerPoint. I guess that was my sub-point. But the real point is, website building platforms make it really, really easy to build a website. So with an understanding of those basic terms, the question becomes, what is the best company to rent that land or that hosting space from? And what is the best platform to use to create your website? What we're going to do now is compare and discuss a few of the most popular building platforms, as well as some of the most popular hosting companies. Let's start by first discussing two popular options that combine both web hosting with a web building platform. Think of these like renting the land with the building already upon it. The biggest problem, in my opinion, with these combined options is that you cannot just up and move that building to another location should you become unhappy with the landlord. Wix is one of those platforms that combines both web hosting and web building. A lot of people like Wix because it makes it very, very easy to build a website if you know absolutely nothing about web building. My daughter uses Wix for her online business and she absolutely loves it. Hey, Sarah.
Yeah.
Come here. say hi to the camera.
Hello.
You use Wix?
I do.
You love it?
I love it.
All right, get out of here.
Okay.
Let me tell you why she's wrong now. She absolutely does love Wix. However, I use WordPress myself. Again, it's kind of spoiler alert there. Let me tell you why I'm not thrilled with Wix as a website building platform. It does make it very, very easy to start your website. But with Wix, you can't change templates from one plan to another without starting over. The biggest thing I don't like about it is there's no control or ownership of the website. So because they combine that hosting with the web building platform, they kind of own it all and control it all together. You can't take your content away from Wix to another hosting company. That's kind of unnerving should you become unhappy with your hosting company. There's also no way to have a personal backup of your own with your Wix website. And that's concerning to me too. I've had problems with websites in the past where I've had to pull from a backup. It's nice to have that happen. From their own site, currently there is no automatic way to back up your site. They are not as fully responsive on mobile device as other platforms. Historically, a shot against Wix was that their SEO is not nearly as good as other platforms. Although the reality is, current day, it's been getting much, much better. A lot of their knock comes because years back they pissed off Google and Google de-indexed them. Even though that no longer appears to be an issue, like I said before, it does bring up my fear again about being stuck with a particular company. They have a few apps. They have about 250 apps, which is not nearly as much as the WordPress market does have. But they do have a lot of apps that can add versatility to your website. What an application is, or an app, is basically a string of code that you can add to your site that allows it to do additional functions. Another company that combines both web hosting and the website building platform that's very popular is Squarespace. They use a block editor type of function to build your website. It's very simple. The block editor that Squarespace uses is actually very, very simpler. It's very simple to, it's very similar, let's go with that, to the editor that WordPress uses. But again, you do not have control of your website. You can download the information, you can download pics and text, but you can't download your entire web design. One pro that Squarespace has over Wix is that you actually can change templates from one web layout to another at any time without having to start all over from scratch. But again, you cannot back up your website. Squarespace does not have backup functionality. In addition, things that bothers me about Squarespace is there's no plugin or there's no app marketplace. And I'm not really feeling their template options, just the look of their site designs. Again, that's just an opinion of mine, but when you go to Squarespace's website, I don't even like their own personal website. Now, Wix and Squarespace, like I said, are two companies that combine hosting with a website building platform. If you're going to talk about a website building platform that is its own entity that you can take to any hosting companies, really the only option for a standalone web building platform is WordPress. WordPress platform itself is totally free, but then you need to choose a hosting provider, a place to rent that space to build your website upon. And you'll need to pay for hosting through that provider. I say it's really the only other platform to choose from because it is far and away the best. Nothing else really even comes close. It's an industry giant. Over 30% of all websites online are built on the WordPress platform. That's over 75 million websites built using WordPress. 15% of the world's top 100 sites were built using WordPress. Disney, Sony, BBC, the British Broadcasting Channel, MTV, The New Yorker, they all have sites built on the WordPress platforms. It was actually voted the most popular content management system for the last 7 years in a row. Now, the obvious question is, with all that praise that I'm heaping upon WordPress here, why would Wix and Squarespace even exist? And why did I even bother talking about them at all? Well, I'm trying to be real here. And the reality is they're both widely used because a lot of people feel that both Wix and Squarespace have an easier learning curve than WordPress. My daughter, she actually made accounts using both Wix and WordPress, and she found Wix a lot easier out of the box to get started with. So she decided to go with Wix over WordPress. I personally think that what you give up long term for some ease with the learning curve in the very beginning just isn't worth it to me at all. For me, I didn't think WordPress was difficult to learn at all. The most confusing thing with WordPress was just choosing a theme. That's a template that works as a framework for your site. With both Wix and Squarespace, you also need to choose a template, but there are a lot less of them and they all come from within. With WordPress, the market is so large and there are so many outside businesses building templates. Some of them are free, some of them are paid, that it can be a little bit overwhelming at first. And for many of my websites, I just use one of the basic free ones that WordPress builds itself and that WordPress provides. And I've actually been very successful with them. My most recent website, which was a rebrand, it's Breaking Your Chains, was actually the first time I went outside of the basic free ones. I bought a pack of like 20 themes or skins, you know, the website templates, so to say, for $80. I've been very happy with it, but to save hassle in the beginning, I would say just go with one of the WordPress's own themes. Use that to learn your way around the building process. Again, you can always change it up anytime at a later date should you choose. If you're at all concerned about how difficult it may or may not be to use WordPress, check out another video of mine. It's just WordPress for beginners. But again, despite any increased learning curve, frankly, I think Wix is easier than WordPress. I'm not so sure Squarespace is easier than WordPress even at all. Now that WordPress also has a block style editor, it's very similar to Squarespace. So I don't even think anymore that Squarespace is easier at all. But despite any increased learning curve, WordPress still beats them both because, number one, like I said before, you own and you control that website with WordPress. Number two, although Wix has gotten better with SEO, neither Wix nor Squarespace are as good with SEO. That's search engine optimization. That's so Google can find or direct people to find your website. None of those are as good as WordPress. If you plan on having a blog or a podcast, WordPress is hands down the platform to use for blogging or podcasting. And as the largest platform out there, you can literally do anything you want with your website. So it allows for much greater customization than the other ones. There are literally thousands of themes that you can use as layouts for your website. And there are thousands of plugins that you can add to it. Again, plugins are those little bits of code that add functionality to your website. You simply choose them from a list, add them, and then activate them. I don't go plugin crazy on my WordPress sites. I'll list them all actually in another video of mine at basic navigation and setup of your WordPress install. So that's another video. I'll go through my favorites, but just to give you another basic idea, I have one that adds incredible protection against online hacking. I have another that provides for automatic backups of my website. It actually automatically backs up my website. It can do it weekly, bi-weekly, and then sends it to my computer via Dropbox. I have another that integrates the site with Google in the best possible way to make it rank better. There are plugins for creating online courses. I have those on one of my websites. Plugins for podcasting. If you can think of a function you would really love with WordPress, there's a plugin for it. So I like WordPress. My daughter likes Wix. I don't know anybody that likes Squarespace. I'm afraid to see the comments from Squarespace lovers. A general rule that a lot of people use, though, is this. If you're trying to figure out which one's the best for you. You use Wix if you have a business that just needs a website. You just need to throw up a website and you want to spend the least amount of time possible learning how to do that. You use WordPress if your business is a website, or if you ever plan on hosting a blog or a podcast or having e-commerce selling things through your website. And another thing to keep in mind though, regardless of how easy a website builder is to use, they all have a learning curve. You're going to need to take a few minutes to figure out the framework for any of them. Like I said, I personally thought that WordPress was super straightforward and super easy. Some of your biggest slowdowns with creating your websites aren't going to be learning the platform. They're going to be the other things that you'll have to do on any website. It's going to be getting your images together, getting your artwork together if you have a logo or a banner. Artwork was super easy for me because my daughter's an expert. And she's an expert artist and an expert graphic designer. And since she's an expert, it was easier for her to build her site. But since she's also an expert, it was super easy for me because she's an artist and graphic designer. Hey, Sarah, help me out with this. How many times has she heard that? But in the beginning, if you don't have a daughter who's an expert artist or a graphic designer, you can get by with just kind of figuring out things as you go. When I first started, when she was really, really young and I started online, using my logo, for example, for one of my first podcasts, I just took a picture of mine that I'd taken with my camera. I added the show name in text over the image, and I used that. Again, any website you're using, you're going to need content to place on that page. That may be in the form of text or audio or video. And again, if you're going to start a blog or podcast, WordPress is hands down the best option. It was basically built for bloggers. Remember in the beginning of this video, way back in the beginning of the video, we were talking about the difference between hosting and web building platforms. Wix and Squarespace combine them both. WordPress is a standalone web building platform. So if you go with Wix or Squarespace, you're strapped into their hosting plans. But if you decide to use WordPress as your platform, you're going to then need to choose a hosting company, a place to rent that land to which to place your store. Having a WordPress platform and web hosting separate really isn't that much harder to work with than those that combine them, because your better hosting services are designed to work with WordPress, and they will have a very simple, what they call a one-click install. So after signing up for hosting, you'll have the option of setting up a website. Who is texting me? So sad. I don't know what the hell's so sad. Probably the Warriors lost. Stop bothering me, France! Where was I? What the heck was I talking about? I was talking about the one-click install. After signing up for WordPress, the hosting, they're going to say, hey, do you want WordPress on your site? And you're going to go, yeah, I want WordPress on my site. And there'll be a click or a button. You click on the hosting company, and it will automatically install the WordPress framework upon a website for you. So the question becomes, what hosting company do you go with if you're going to use WordPress? Well, WordPress's own recommendation for hosting companies includes the following information. This is from WordPress's site, and I'm reading it verbatim. I'm going to read it verbatim from you here. Am I going to read it verbatim, Ty? Okay, here it is. There are hundreds of thousands of web hosts out there, the vast majority of which meet the WordPress minimum requirements, and choosing one from the crowd can be a chore. Just like flowers need the right environment to grow, WordPress works best when it's in a rich hosting environment. We've dealt with more hosts than you can imagine. In our opinion, the hosts below represent some of the best and brightest of the hosting world. And then they go on to list three of them. The number one that they list, and my favorite actually is Bluehost. That's my personal favorite. That's the company that I've used personally for over 10 years. And this is again from WordPress's site. Powering over 2 million websites, Bluehost offers the ultimate WordPress platform. Tuned for WordPress, they offer WordPress-centric dashboards and tools along with one-click installation, a free domain name, email, FTP, and more. Easily scalable and backed by legendary 24/7 support by in-house WordPress experts. That last one, I can vouch for. I have had to call their customer support on a few issues and things that I've needed some help with because I didn't know what was going on. They have walked me through personally with incredible knowledge, 24 hours a day. I always get people that speak English well that answer the phone, and they always answer the phone right away without me being on hold forever. A couple other little bits of information about Bluehost. They operate their own servers. So all their servers are held in-house in this 50,000 square foot facility in Provo, Utah, because you cared that it was in Provo, Utah. That's called unnecessary information right there. What is necessary is they do offer unlimited storage and unlimited bandwidth. That's a big deal for me. I also like the fact that they give you an option of a 3-year upfront payment at a great introductory rate. Pretty much any of the hosting companies that you look at, they're going to give you, whether it's Wix or Squarespace or Bluehost or any of the other two, they're going to offer you some great rate for the first year. But Bluehost gives you an option of paying for 3 years at that great rate. Their support, like I said before, is super fast, super friendly, super knowledgeable, and they speak clear English. And that's not being racist, saying clear English, because I don't care what nationality I'm talking to. I don't even care what country I'm talking to. But it is a bonus to talk to somebody that speaks English. I do know that they're in the United States because last time I was talking to them, I said, "Where are you guys at?" Because I was curious about time zones and calling back, and they said Texas. So what are the other two companies that WordPress recommends? One is DreamHost. DreamHost has been in business about 10 years. They have about 400,000 customers. They have the most expensive of all the plans, and they limit your storage to 30 gigabytes. So I'm not a fan of limiting storage. The other one is SiteGround. They were founded in 2004. They have about 1.8 million domains. That is a lot of domains. One thing that kind of is a turnoff to me with SiteGround is they have issues with WordFence. We were talking about plugins earlier. Well, here's a tip really. WordFence is one of my favorite plugins. It is a plugin you add to your website that severely makes it really, really hard for people to hack your website. So it's a virus protection. They have a paid version and a free version. I use the paid on one of my websites, the free on all the other ones. And it is incredible, and it makes me feel really safe with my websites. So not being able to use that is kind of concerning to me. And another thing about SiteGround is they have limitations on that web space. They limit you to 20 gigabytes. GoDaddy, as popular as they are, we've all seen their commercials on TV, they weren't even on the list from WordPress. I know from talking to many people in the industry that a lot of people are not happy with GoDaddy's downtime, that GoDaddy sites go down a lot more than the WordPress sites. I've had my WordPress hosting my sites for about 10 years, and maybe, I think twice for 15 minutes, my websites have been down that I've even been aware of. Let's talk about a quick comparison of the hosting fees, what these companies charge. They're all close enough. When you're talking business, even if it's $5 or $10 a month, it's really not that big of a deal. You want to go with what works best for you and which one you think is the best. Bluehost is actually possibly the cheapest of them all. Bluehost, and this is after that introductory offer, right? If you go the first year, Bluehost is going to be considerably cheaper. But we're talking long-term site, you're down the road, what's it going to cost me to up and run my site? About $10.99 or $14.99 per month, depending on which plan you go to. I have the $10.99 plan. It's worked just fine for me. GoDaddy. I'm going to mention this again here for comparison purposes because, like I said before, it is a well-known web host. GoDaddy is almost the same as Bluehost. It's $10.99 or $16.99. But they charge you an actual fee for an SSL, which is currently $80 a year. So it's actually an extra $80 a year than Bluehost, because Bluehost provides you an SSL for free. Now, we don't need to get all into that in this video, but SSL, in its simplest form, it allows your website to connect with the web through a method which is more secure. It encrypts the data that's sent from your website so that it can't be stolen or attacked. And your website shows not secure in the URL if you don't have an SSL, which can scare people away. So you could get also dinged by Google for not having one. So really, to you right now, at the point we're all at, that's the most important thing about an SSL, is you need it to make your customers feel secure, and you need it to make Google happy. Wix, again, they have storage limitations on you. Remember, Wix and Squarespace, those are the two companies that provide hosting with a website building platform. Wix does have storage limitations. If you want to accept online payments, you need a minimum $23 a month plan, which is considerably more than WordPress. Realistically, you're going to go with either 23 or 27. SSL-wise, since Wix is all-inclusive, they handle that. So they configure the code on their end to be secure or in SSL form. So you don't even need to worry about that with Wix. Squarespace, you basically have two options. You can either be billed annually or monthly. If you're billed annually, so if they charge you all at once, it's $216 right now, breaks down to about $18 a month, which is, again, considerably more than Bluehost, or $26 monthly. So you can pay annually $18 or $26 monthly if you want to sell anything. The other thing about Squarespace is they also have a 3% transaction fee on sales. So that provides another reason to be wary of sites that have your website tied in with a host. Because what if they suddenly jump that percentage to 4 or 5 or 6? Like I said before with Squarespace, I'm not even really feeling their own website. So to me, if you're going to look at these options and things we're talking about, really the only options would be Bluehost using WordPress or Wix. And I'm personally a huge fan of Bluehost on WordPress. So there you go. Like I said, my personal choice is the WordPress building platform on top of Bluehost hosting. If you'd like to look more into that, feel free to check out my other videos. I have one, it's setting up your first website, and what that involves is setting up a Bluehost hosting account and installing WordPress on it. So it's basically setting up your account and getting the framework up of your website. I have another video called WordPress for Beginners, building your first website or blog. It's basically just walking you through the very basics of the WordPress back end. Like I said, if you're at all concerned about difficulty, check that one out. I think you'll realize it's not that hard at all. If you think that Wix might be the thing for you, I've set up a video that you can watch for that as well, called Getting Started with Wix. And with that, I hope you found this informative. Enjoy the day, and thanks for tuning in. Have a good one. What's that? Have a good day.